Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the MMA Corner Prediction Show. As tonight you get a twofer as we break down both UFC Fight Night 48 and UFC Fight Night 49. As always, tonight's episode is brought to you by BattleBomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. BattleBomb.com, check them out. Tonight's audio is powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics, get you some. These things rock. Love them. Can't get enough. I'm your host, Josh Davis, alongside my co-host for the evening, Justin Fuller. Lot to talk about. Short amount of time. We're doing both main cards tonight. 10 fights total. Justin, give us your thoughts on UFC Fight Night 48, Bisbane versus Conley.
I think as far as international cards go, this is actually a pretty good one. You know, it's a Fight Pass card. And we can't say enough good things about Fight Pass. You really can't complain when you get top-level free fights, you know, that you pay $9.95 a month for, as well as everything else that comes with it. You know, you got 4 fights on the main card. I think that's the perfect amount for a card like this, especially how early it is. You got the tough finale on there, the long overdue tough finale. You know, you got Kung Lee making his return, fighting in his own backyard, you know, where he's a big star. Michael Bisping looking to rebound, prove he's still an elite fighter. And then really the big fight, I think, as far as title talk goes, is that DHK Woodley fight, you know. You know, we're definitely going to see the winner of that come out with a really big fight on a big card after this. So there's a lot to be excited about, and there's a good reason to wake up early in the morning.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about, and you're right, there's good reason to wake up in the morning. Like you said, it is an early start time. Prelims start at 6:30 on the East Coast, and then main card is 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So it's definitely early. If you're on the West Coast, Midwest Mountain Time like I am, it's 4:30 a.m. It's 3:30 if you're on the West Coast. You might as well not even go to bed, just pull an all-nighter. With that being said, as always, the MMA Corner will be on top of this. We will be up early in the morning covering this event, making sure that you have everything that you need related to it. So if you want to watch it, always come to the MMAcorner.com, your home for all things MMA, and you can get that news. All right, let's kick it right off. As you said, Justin, the tough China finale, long overdue. We have Ninggang Yao versus Zheping Yang. Give us your thoughts.
You know, it's been a little while since I watched this, but you know, Ninggang Yu, he definitely, I think, impressed me more throughout the season. But one thing is, featherweights always come to bring it, and even though the talent wasn't kind of at the level like, say, Tough Brazil was, or when we get Team Canada on a Tough, you know, like we've kind of become accustomed to. One thing I can say about the Chinese tough fighters, man, getting to know them, their work ethic and that warrior spirit they take and their approach to training, man, I don't think any nation that's been highlighted in a tough season yet can match that. So while the talent isn't quite as deep and developed like, you know, some of these other areas are, that right there tells me it's only a matter of time till they catch up. And I think that Ninggang Yu could be that kind of breakout fighter to inspire the rest of those up-and-coming fighters in China, you know, to kind of just step their game up a lot. It's just, I think there just can't be enough said with just their philosophy with training and fighting. It was kind of refreshing to see, actually, as a, you know, with a traditional martial arts background like I have.
You know, they definitely have a different training style, a different mentality, a different way of doing things over there. And again, I agree with you. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's going to be great for the sport. And to be honest, I want to see more of it because for us, when you think old school martial arts, you think Bruce Lee, that kind of stuff. Essentially, that's what they're still doing over there. They still relate to the old way of doing things, and they've combined it with the new style. So I love the way that they're training not only over in Asia, but you know, that whole continent. You know, when you think of Russia and everything that they're doing over there as well, I love it. I love the talent that's coming out of there. With that being said, I'm going Yang on this fight. I don't know I really don't have anything to base it on. I think these guys. I think this fight's a pick and fight, to be honest. But I like Yang. I like his size in this fight. I think he'll be able to use his reach and get it done. But again, this is why they fight. So we'll see. All right, moving right along. We have Zhang Lepang versus Brendan O'Reilly. I like O'Reilly in this fight again. You know, maybe we're biased here at the MMA Corner, former blogger for us, that kind of stuff. But I really think this is a good matchup for him. I think he has the tools to win this fight. I think Zhang, who has some experience, you know, he's 7-7-1, so he's been in some fights. Definitely has some experience, but I think the Badger is overall more well-rounded. I think he's got more ways that he can win the fight, and I think he's looking to put his stamp down. So I'm going with Brendan in this one.
You know, I actually love this matchup altogether. You know, with Brendan O'Reilly, you know, he's undefeated. You know, on his official record, he's he's fighting at least a little bit closer to home. At least it's a similar time zone, right? As opposed to say having to come all the way out to like North Carolina. So I mean that you know, he doesn't have that really disadvantage, but he's fighting in Zhang's hometown. You know, Zhang, I mean, the guy's more experienced. He's been in there with some warriors. He's already got his UFC win out of the way. Granted, it was against another guy making his debut, who's also fighting on the undercard, by the way, Wing Sai. But I'm having a hard time picking one. My gut's telling me that the Badger's going to take this one, that he's just going to overpower Zhang. But I feel like Zhang, if he could kind of weather that early storm and find his footing, he can take it into the third round and really control the match and maybe try and find a submission. You know, I just don't, you know, I mean, he doesn't have the best of luck when it goes late, but I just think that experience and that hometown crowd is going to pay off for him. But my gut's telling me the Badger. First round finish.
And you're right, man. The hometown crowd play a part. Because first off, no one wants to lose their friends and family that kind of backyard. But in China, it's completely different. The way they go about things.
They'll take away your rice rations. Bring dishonor on the family, you know.
We joke, but that's serious business over in China. And you know, we'll go the extra mile to make sure that they don't lose in their backyard. So the Badger's going to be in for a fight, but again, I think he has more tools to win this fight. I think as long as he keeps his head cool and does the things that he needs to do, this is his fight to lose. All right, moving right along, the co-main event, Dong Young Kim versus Tyron Woodley. Justin Stars.
DHK, man. I've been a fan of this guy for a long time. When you look at his record, I mean, he had that freak injury, you know, when he fought Damian Maia, and that's a fight I'd like to see again if Maia can work his way back up into the top 5. And then he had that first-round finish to Condit, when Condit was just a beast, right, 2011. But he has looked so good. I mean, he's gotten some crap in the past for his poor man's GSP style, but the way he's just destroyed Hathaway and Eric Silva, I mean, 2 game competitors, there's nothing there. Now, Woodley, on the other hand, this is a guy that can downright look scary or look a little lackadaisical. And he did not look the best in his last outing. Granted, you're fighting top 3 fighter Rory McDonald. No real shame in that, but, you know, we also didn't really see it perform like we expected. I think DHK's got the experience and the power and the cardio and the wrestling. And even though he's Korean, he's still got hometown advantage there. There's a reason why he's the co-main event on this card, to just give Tyron Woodley a bad day. And, you know, I definitely think Woodley's got a lot of potential, and I've seen some greatness in him. I think we're going to see more greatness in DHK, and he's going to make a huge statement with his 5th straight win tomorrow night, or Saturday morning, however you look at it.
Exactly. However you look at it. I have to agree, you know. I'm not going to get on my soapbox that I think Tyron Woodley has been overrated, but I do. I think he has.
That's your catchphrase.
He's a little bit overrated.
Your catchphrase is overrated.
It is. You know, I'm sorry. I throw it around an awful lot because who am I to say anyone's overrated? I'm some punk with computer
If you're
and
gonna
a
say it,
microphone and
say it all
whatnot
the time.
over here talking trash. But no, and obviously Tyron Woodley would beat the crap out of me. There's no question about that. But as far as elite level fighters go, I just don't think he has the skills. I think he has great wrestling, and I think he has great wrestling. And that's pretty much it. While he was winning the fight with Carlos Condit, there's no guarantee that he was going to continue to win that fight. Carlos was starting to find his range and doing the things that he needed to do. Then again, he did not look good
Yeah.
against Rory McDonald at all. He didn't look great.
He
He
hits
didn't shake
hard.
shields.
He hits hard, but he doesn't have the best striking. There's two completely different things. He's a heavy hitter, but he's not a great striker, and that's going to hurt him.
I really think so. Why he's throwing his bombs from the hip. Kim's going to be using his better striking land in the jab, that kind of stuff. I just think Kim has more ways to win this fight. I think if it goes to the clinch, I think Woodley is probably going to be better, but he's not going to be that much better that he's going to be able to dominate there like he needs to win the fight. I think, again, when you break it down, Kim has more ways to win this fight. He's fighting, like you said, very close to his backyard. He's going to have all his people there. I think he makes a statement, to be honest. I don't know that he's going to be able to finish Woodley. Woodley's proven to be a tough guy to finish, but I do think he's gonna put it on him. So
And let's also point out
going Kim.
let's also point out the fact that like Jong Hyun Kim's technically ranked number 10th. How's Tarek Safin and Jake Ellenberger above this guy, right? Like, I mean, he should be at number 7, I think, at the least, and I think he's going to make a big statement to be at number 6 after he if and when he defeats Tyron Woodley.
Honestly, if and when he beats Tyron Woodley, he's got to be up there. I mean, yes, he did have the loss to Damian Maia where he broke his rib or whatever, and Carlos hit him with the flying knee. I mean, that's going to knock anybody out. But the guy's a beast. If he gets this victory, you got to give him, maybe some kind of title eliminator fight. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be Rory because he's fighting Safardine, but you got to throw, if he gets this victory, you got to throw him in there with some elite level competition. All right, moving right along. Main event, Michael Bisping versus Hung Lee. Now, start with Hung Lee.
Yeah, right?
All right, go ahead, start it off.
I was just going to say, man, I mean, with this one, I just love this fight for the entertainment aspect of it. Let's be perfectly honest here, man. Hung Lee wins. He ain't getting no title shot. Michael Bisping wins. Then, yeah, he's 1 or 2 more fights away from another title eliminator for the 5th time in his career, okay? But this is really just 2 guys who've been in the sport a long time, who are both headliners, putting on a big fight on a small card in a small island. So it's really the winners here are the people in Macau, because this is a fight that, like, that's a caliber as far as star power goes. They should be blessed to have. That should be, like, in San Jose. However, as far as significance it goes, it's not a whole lot, but that doesn't perturb me from enjoying it, because I'm just going to enjoy this fight. I know it's going to be an exciting fight, and if Hung Lee wins and after Anderson Silva destroys Nick Diaz, even though I love Nick Diaz, then yeah, maybe we'll get to see that freak show fight too. It's kind of like some throwback matches. There's a lot of options we can have here, and this is just one of them. But I think the loser here really needs to reconsider his long-term career goals, because if Bisping loses to Hung Lee at this age, he really needs to reevaluate where he's at in his career, maybe just look at broadcasting full-time. And if Hung Lee loses, you know what, you made enough money over the years, you might be time to hang him up as well.
Well, first off, Anderson Silva is not destroying Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is going to put the smackdown on Anderson. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone who's watching, just kidding. I love Nick Diaz, but no, we'll get into that fight when it comes. But as far as this one goes, the UFC needed somebody to fight Kung Lee over in Asia. Michael Bisping wanted not only to get back into the octagon as quickly as he could after suffering his last loss, but more importantly, Bisping wanted not necessarily a big name, but a name with recognition, so he could essentially get a fight to get back into the swing of things. I think this is a fight that Bisping should win. He's the better overall fighter. He should be able to go in there, and once he gets the timing down, he should put a whooping on Kung Lee. However, Kung Lee's very unorthodox. He's proven that he hits hard, but again, he hasn't fought since his knockout victory of Rich Franklin, however long ago that was.
2012.
2012. So that's right, November 10th, 2012, UFC on Fuel TV. I mean, that's a long time, guys. It's been a long time since he's fought, almost 2 years. I don't know. I just don't see it being his night. I think Bisping gets the victory. Now, if Kung Lee does pull off a victory, I have to agree. He's not getting a title shot anytime soon. But if Bisping gets the victory, then yeah, he's Michael Bisping. The UFC has been trying to push him into a title fight for years. He's just never got it done. They'll give him another opportunity to fight for a #1 contender slot and get a title shot. So that's how that'll be. All right, guys. So there you have it on UFC Fight Night 48. Again, prelim starts 6:30 Eastern, 4:30 Mountain, 3:30 on the West Coast. Main card starts 9 a.m. East Coast, 7 a.m. Mountain Time, 6 a.m. on the West Coast. If that's too early for you, no sweat. The MMA Corner's got you covered. All post-fight recaps, all of that kind of stuff will be up immediately following the event. So if you sleep till noon, no worries. Get up, check the MMAcorner.com. We have you covered. All right, moving right along, UFC Fight Night 49. Benson Henderson versus Rafael Dos Anjos, live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Little bit late start on this one, guys. Prelims, Fox Sports 2, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Main card, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. on the West Coast. All right. I got to be honest. You know, for what this card is, it's pretty solid. First off, if you look at where it is, you couldn't have expected a giant card. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. No offense to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been there numerous times. It's actually a great city. It's just a small market city. It's not one of the bigger cities out there. So definitely the UFC wasn't going to come guns a-blazing. They brought a very solid, we'll call it a B-level card for a mid-market town. And when you think about what the UFC had scheduled throughout this month, this is a perfect slot filler. They have 2 events on this day, moving into the pay-per-view that they have coming up. They were supposed to have the pay-per-view earlier this month, plus the event last weekend. Everything that they were doing, this, again, for the fans, free, solid event, solid B-card event. Justin, give us your thoughts.
You know, yeah, I think it's, like, keep in mind, this is a Fight Night card, free card, small card. Like, meaning smaller venue, smaller cage. Obviously, we're still getting, like, 10 fights on the card. No one's complaining there if you're paying good money to go see this. I mean, you've got what I would call an A- main event on an overall B card. I like the co-main event, but it's a B- fight. As far when we look at significance, that is. But main event, you got #1 fighting #5 for free in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that's reason enough to tune in, And, I mean, if you're like us, you're going to watch the whole thing because you got to know everything that's going on because this is what we do. This is our lives. This is our professions, right? This is our passion. But if you want to know who the up-and-comers are, who some of these new fighters are, and who's going to be making waves in the future, who is going to be getting their walking papers in the future if they don't perform well, this is a good card to watch it. But if you're a casual fan and you don't see a whole lot of familiar faces, That's all right. Number 1 versus number 5 is reason enough to tune in to watch the main event, and hopefully tune in a little earlier to catch the rest of the main card.
Exactly. So you want to start it off? Get right into it. Enough BSing. We got 6 fights to go. We have Tom Ninamaki versus Chaz Skelly. Start us off, and I'll jump in.
This is one of those ones that I think would be an undercard, a prelim fight on a bigger card, but they get the glory of opening up the main card. Neither guy is making his debut, but at least Tom has tasted victory in the octagon. Chaz, he's a bit of a Bellator vet, didn't have the best luck in his first outing, lost that close majority decision to Mirsad Bektic. And same thing with Tom, though. His win didn't come without its own controversy against Ronnie Yaya, who's, always a game guy, right? Talk about having your first fight in the UFC, right? That's who it is. But he didn't look too well in his next one. And I'm going to give it up to the guy who's yet to taste victory in the octagon because he is the same age as me within 15 days, same month, same year. So Chaz Skelly gets my pick. And I'm going to give it to him by submission because the guy's a beast on the ground, which I'm always a fan of, as you know.
Yes, it is very important to be a beast on the ground. Wrestling with your socks on, sometimes you got to do it. With that being said, first off, I like this fight. I think they match up very well together. But I think Chaz is going to rebound from his last loss. He was obviously on an 11-fight win streak, suffered his first defeat. I think he's going to rebound and get the victory, not because you guys are 15 days apart, but because he is an actual fighter. And no, in all seriousness, I just think he's going to be able to get the fight to the ground, and once he does, he's going to be able to control position and be able to slap on the submission. So I'm going Chaz on this one. All right, moving right along, we have Valmer Lazaro versus James Vick. Another fight that I am looking forward to. If you don't know who these guys are, definitely YouTube them, because there's some stuff out there. I think they both have talent. I'm excited to see this fight, but I will be honest. I am going with Cassius Clay Collard. Anybody who can call themselves Cassius Clay is
no, wrong fight. We're talking James Vick, Valmer Lazaro.
Oh, whoops! I'm sorry. I was looking. I was.
I know who your pick is over Max Holloway. You're out of your mind, anyway.
I have them all up right here. I'm sorry. I'm still going with James Vick in this fight. I do love Valmer Lazaro. He's 12-2. The guy's a beast. But I don't know. There's just something about James Vick that I like. He did not perform as well as he could against Michael Chiesa in the Ultimate Fighter finale, but I do think the guy has solid skills, and I think he's going to show it tonight or Saturday night. So I'm going James Vick.
I'm going to disagree, man. Fucking Baidu, man. This guy's just got the experience. He's a beast. He's been down there just ripping guys apart in Brazil, and guys like that don't go easy. And usually the guys that take them down have a few more accolades underneath their belt than James Vick does. He did look pretty good early on when he was on Tough, came up short against Michael Chiesa, got that good submission over Ramsey Niam. But I don't really judge guys by how good they did or didn't look during their seasons of Tough unless they're fighting another guy on that season. You know what I mean? Like it's a finale and they're in the undercard or they're in the finale, like fighting for the title. Because like we've seen guys that didn't look too great but made it to the semifinals go on to do great things later on and get title shots before the guys who ever even won their season did. But I just think Valmer Lazaro is a scary dude, and I'm super excited to see him. I mean, this is a guy who's Brazilian, been tearing it up down there, and he's making his debut in Macau for the UFC. So that just interests me to begin with. But nothing
And
against,
he is on an 11-fight win streak,
yeah, you know,
and he's just been knocking fools out. You think with
yeah,
a Brazilian he'd be submitting fools, but he's not. He's knocking
yeah,
fools out left and
animal.
right.
And Vic's a good fighter. I like watching him fight, and I don't think he's at risk of losing his job with a loss here. But I do think that that's probably going to be what happens anyway. Not that he loses his job, but that he gets a loss. But that's all right because we'll see him fight again.
Now we'll see. I don't know. I'm just feeling Vic in this fight. I think he's gonna pull something off, but he could end up waking up to pretty little late. So again, this is why they fight. So we'll have to see. All right. Next up, Cassius Clay, colored versus Max Holloway. Now on the right card again. Justin, start us off.
Man, them Hawaiians, you can't really ever count them out. But Max is a young kid, and he doesn't have the best record. But when you look at how old the guy was when he made his debut in the UFC, he's 22 now. His first fight was against Dustin Poirier in early 2012, okay? So this guy couldn't even legally buy a beer when he was fighting on UFC 143, right? That's pretty impressive. As the marquee bout of the televised prelims, no doubt, okay? And then he had some pretty good bouts there too. Knocking out Justin Lawrence was pretty impressive because that guy's a good striker. You look at his losses, they're only the top guys. He's not losing to nobodies. However, Cassius is one of those guys who's been around a while. He's had a lot of fights in a short amount of time. And I'm very excited to see what he can do in the octagon. Hopefully the travel doesn't mess with him. Hopefully the jitters don't mess with him, and I get to see him at his best because I think Max is the perfect opponent to see what he really has to offer at this level of fighting. But my money's on Max just based off of experience and quality of opposition alone.
I love Max Holloway. I always have. I still don't think we've seen the best of Max Holloway. Like you just pointed out, he's still a young kid. First off, he hasn't grown into his adult body. He's still an adolescent for all intents and purposes. He is a kid, and we have seen him grow in the octagon. And yeah, he lost to Dustin Poirier, he lost to Dennis Bermudez, and he lost to Conor McGregor. Honestly, those are not three scrubs. Those are three top quality guys. Now I love Clay. First off, I love his nickname. I do love what he's done. He's again another guy that has been putting some beatdowns on people. But in my mind, the deck is stacked against him. He's making his UFC debut against a UFC vet. He's got a long way to travel, adjust all the time zone, everything else that goes with it. Plus, Max Holloway is just one tough SOB that is always coming to fight regardless. He might not always look pretty, but he reminds me so much of the Diaz brothers. He just wants to go out there and fight. He doesn't want to outpoint you. He wants to go out there and fight you. And so with that being said, I think Max will find a way to get the victory. I don't know if he's going to get a finish, but I think he'll be able to, at the very least, work out a decision. All right, moving right along. Francis Carmont versus Talis Lathis. Justin, give us your thoughts first.
Carmont's that guy who he got bit by the top 10 bug, as I like to call it. Like, you beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy who had an upset win. Like, this all traces back to Tim Boesch with his upset third-round late victory over freaking, Okami. Like, but that, let's be honest here, that's what Boesch does. Boesch gets beat up and then knocks you out at any point, right? Or he just ends up getting beat up and loses a decision. That's kind of but that's kind of how this whole thing started. Like, when people were talking Costa, well, people were talking Boesch, then they were talking Costa, then they were talking Carmont. None of those guys were able to follow it up, right? Well, Talis Lathis is a guy who's been in there with the best in the world, right? This is a guy with the win over Nate Marquardt. This is a guy who fought Anderson Silva. This is a guy who got kind of cut from the UFC under questionable circumstances, wins his way back in, and now he's on a 3-fight win streak. And let's point out that he TKO'd Trevor Smith in Abu Dhabi. Trevor Smith is a pretty tough guy, Strikeforce vet, and this is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy who couldn't stand and trade with Silva and ended up being a really boring fight, but knocks out Trevor fucking Smith. All right, so I'm gonna pretty much what I'm saying is that Francis Carmont is gonna have a bad day at the hands of Talis Leites, and that he's gonna earn himself a legit top 10 opponent after this. And we really get to see what Talis Leites 2.0 can do in the division, because I'm very excited.
Yeah, I have to agree. I like this new Talis Leites. He's been wrecking fools. He's learning how to throw his hands. He's becoming a complete fighter, and that's the key. We always knew he had a great ground game. That's what got him his title shot against Anderson. But now he's learning how to knock fools out, and that's the great thing. And he is currently on a 6-fight win streak. He's got some great victories in those 6 fights. Ed Herman, Trevor Smith, Tom Watson, Jeremy Horn, Tor Tong off the Ultimate Fighter show. I like Talis in this fight. I think he'll be able to control the fight on the ground. I think he'll be able to use his new and improved stand-up to dictate the pace of fight. I think Francis Carmont's in for a long evening. I think he's going to get his ass whooped. Is really all I have to say about that. So let's move on. Co-main event: Jordan Main, Mike Pyle. Obviously, this was not the original main event or co-main event, and up until Brandon Thatch dislocated his toe a few weeks ago, none of these fighters were.
Let's talk about the daisy chain of this. So it was supposed to be Main Alves. Alves pulls out, then Brandon Thatch. All right, then Thatch pulls out. Okay, and now Main is fading Pyle because Pyle's opponent Maya had to pull out. So that's a real who's who of the welterweight division right there when you think about it.
That's too many pullouts, if you ask me. Somebody just.
There's only one that counts.
I mean, come on.
The last one.
I mean, seriously. So, with that being said, I do love this fight, though. In all honesty, I really, really am excited for this fight. I think Mike Pyle and Jordan Main match up real well together. Mike Pyle is always a dude that comes to fight. Yes, he's been outclassed by some people. He got whooped by Matt Brown, but
they both did.
If you look at what Pyle has done, great victory over Rick Story, Josh Neer, James Head. He does have some great victories, but again, he was outclassed by Rory McDonald. He was outclassed by Matt Brown. But I like Mike Pyle. Mike Pyle also put a beat down on John Hathaway. When he shows up, he's vicious. Is he one of the best in the world? Probably not. But when he shows up, guys are in trouble. He might not always win the fight, but he always comes to fight. And with his fighting style, he's great at cutting you up. He's great at punishing your face and making you look like hamburger. Jordan Main, on the other hand, is just flat out a different kind of fighter. He wants to push the pace. He wants to bully you around. He wants to basically do the same things to Mike Pyle that Mike Pyle wants to do to him, just in a different manner. I like Jordan in this fight just for the simple fact that I think he'll be able to weather the storm. I think he'll be able to outmuscle Mike in the clinch. But for me, this is a toss-up fight. It really could go either way. I would not be surprised if we might come out and just show the world that he's back. But right now I'm going Jordan in this fight.
For me, I love this matchup more than all those other matchups. Simply because there's no gimme here, right? Like, Mike Pyle is he is the most veteran, elite level technical skilled fighter you can be, who is not fighting for a belt. Like when you look at the guy's losses, like let's look at his, his only 2 losses in like his last 9 fights, right? That's to Matt Brown and Roy McDonald, and both of those were early finishes, because when Mike Pyle gets his rhythm going, Mike Pyle picks you apart. And when he fought TJ Waldberger, yeah, he finished him late in the 3rd round. That fight was over 3 minutes into the 1st. That was just him picking his shots, picking you apart piece by piece. Like if Matt Brown is like technical chaos unleashed, Mike Pyle is technical precision destruction, like, how he wants to do it, assuming he doesn't take any damage early in the fight. Jordan Mein, however, this is a guy who's only lost to top-level guys as well. When you look at his Strikeforce and UFC records, close loss to Tyrone Woodley, and, that knockout loss to Matt Brown, and he hurt him early in that fight too. So we know both guys are dangerous, and picking one's hard on this. For me personally, both these guys are top 10 fighters. Like, this is like number 9 and 10 in my book. And I think Pyle's a guy who's been around so long, more people should know who he is. And Jordan Mean's a guy who's good enough and been in there with enough guys that he should get more due respect. Unfortunately, only one of these guys is going to win, and I'm going to have to give it up to Pyle. I think he just looked so much better in his last fight against a higher-level opponent than Mean did in his last fight. And I love that both guys are coming off a win with their fight right before that, a knockout loss to Matt Brown.
And to be honest, I would not, like I said, this fight's a pick 'em for me. Flip a coin. It really is that close. But I would not be surprised to see Mike just go out there and beat the crap out of Jordan, just literally go put his stamp on it. However, I think right now Jordan's in the zone. Yeah, he's kind of been up and down, but he's always shown improvement, and I think against Mike, he's going to be able to showcase some of his skills. And so I'm going with Jordan, and then on Saturday night I'll be eating my shoe if that's what it is. All right, main event time. Start us off. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Ben. I'm not getting a title shot as long as Anthony Pettis holds the belt. Henderson.
This is number 1 versus number 5. And that is because, number 2, 3, and 4 are no-go right now, because number 5 already lost to number 3, and he's out on an injury right now. Otherwise, we'd have that fight. Like, let's be honest here. If Khamid Nurmagomedov was not hurt, we'd be seeing him fight Benson Henderson. And then that would actually help Benson make a more legitimate case for that 3rd fight. Like, yeah, Dana said, hey, if Pettis beats him again, we're not doing a 3rd fight. Well, that's hard to say when this guy's coming off 2 wins over top 10 guys, and he's about to fight number 5. I think for Dos Anjos, this is a prove the Nurmagomedov fight was a fluke. You just weren't on that night, and prove you can beat number 1 and make a really strong case and help muddy the waters for contendership in that division, especially with Eddie Alvarez coming in and fighting Donald Cerrone, which I'm super excited about. And for Benson Henderson, this is his way of saying, regardless of what happens when Pettis fights Melendez, I'm still the number 1 contender because I just beat number 5. So what are you going to do about that? And I sent Josh Thompson down to number 6. What are you going to do about that? I think what we might – so my pick would be Benson Henderson, though. I think he's just the stronger fighter. I think he's the smarter fighter. But Dos Anjos is one of those guys who's always going to be sitting there floating around at the top 5, even with the loss here. So there's still a lot of fights for him. I think Dos Anjos could win this fight, but that it's just not in the cards for him tonight. I think Benson's just he's going to be on his game. He was on his game in his last fight. And, he's just – not having that stress of that belt around your waist, I think, has really helped him refocus his training and his game plan and refocus how he is as a fighter back to those WEC days, because he was one of my favorite guys back then. And then when he came to the UFC and got a belt, he became one of the most boring guys. But if he wins, I want to see him fight the winner, Donald Cerrone, Eddie Alvarez, assuming he wins, or even Dos Anjos. I want to see the winner of this fight the winner of that fight, because like we were talking before the show, it's a long time till Pettis Melendez.
Yes, it is. It is definitely a long time till that fight happens, and it's also going to be a while until Habib's back. Now, here's the thing about this fight. Uh, and when they first announced it, this is the first thing that came into my mind. Hmm, Ben Henderson, he's a bigger, stronger version of Habib. And what did Habib do? He was just able to outmuscle Dos Anjos, drag him to the ground, throw him around, suplex him, do all the things he needed to do, control position, beat him up, and grind out the decision. So when I started thinking about this fight, it got to wonder, can Dos Anjos really put up with Henderson? Because again, Ben's going to do the same thing. He's going to outmuscle him. He's going to outwork him. He's going to outcardio him. He's not going to be like Cerrone and just stand in the middle and be willing to go punch for punch. That's not what he's going to do. And Evan Dunham was also willing to do similar things. He's going to be on the defensive for most of this fight because Henderson's pace is relentless. He is going to be moving forward. He's going to be constantly looking for the clinch, working for takedowns, putting Dos Anjos on his back. I don't think Dos Anjos is going to be able to deal with that. I don't know that Ben will be able to get a finish before the championship rounds, but I think in the championship rounds he'll be able to have worn Dos Anjos down enough to get some kind of submission, a rear naked choke, whatever. So I think Ben's gonna win this fight. And to be real honest, I think I think Ben is just basically saying to the UFC, give me anyone in the top 10 and I'm going to beat him back. Yes, Pettis has beat me twice, but I deserve another title shot. And
Yeah. Like, regardless of who has that belt, I've earned the shot, is his case he needs to make.
exactly, because, when it's all said and done, he'll probably be saying, you know what, I beat Habib, I beat Donald Cerrone, I beat Josh Thompson, I beat Rafael Dos Anjos, I beat Jim Miller. Everyone who's going to be saying, hey, I
Yeah.
deserve a title shot, he's going to be able
Yeah.
to say, no, you don't. I've already whooped you. Uh, I get it. And then if you can't beat him in the third time, then put on some pounds or take some pounds off, one of the two. Uh,
That's pretty much it for him. I mean, I think if he does get a third shot with Pettis, I think it's more likely he'll get a shot for the title than a third shot with Pettis, just because of the way Pettis is always struck with injury. But if he gets a third shot with Pettis and comes up short, he needs to look at moving up in weight. And with those tree trunk thighs he has, I don't think it would be too hard for him to pack on a few more pounds and be competitive at welterweight.
yeah, you know.
I'm not saying he's winning no titles at welterweight, but he's
No,
not a small lightweight, you know?
no, he's not. I think he could definitely be competitive at welterweight. And, to be real honest, look what GSP did. GSP was not a big guy, and he dominated the welterweight division. Ben Henderson is pretty much GSP size, just chooses to be at lightweight. Yes, he could be very competitive there. I don't necessarily think he could make featherweight, but who knows? I've seen crazier things happen. I've seen Anthony Johnson come down from 250 pounds and legitimately make 170. So crazier stuff has happened. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. All right, Justin, final thoughts for the night.
Ooh, that's a lot of fights to talk about. That's a lot of knowledge in my brain right now. But needless to say, Saturdays are pretty much locked in for me right now. I know everyone's excited. Football's back, but you know what? Saturday's not fight night. Saturday's fight day.
And that's the thing. Saturday is fight day. And guys, you're not going to find a bigger football fan in the world than myself. For me, football is life. My life literally revolves around football, always has. Uh, with that being said, it's still Saturday is fight day. I mean, and really it's fight weekend with all the events that are going on this weekend. I am so freaking excited. I cannot wait. And I cannot wait for Saturday. I'm getting my ass up early. I'm going to be watching all of UFC Fight Morning 48 for me, tweeting out results, all of that kind of stuff, doing the recap for the site. So everything will be up, and then I'll be ending my evening on my couch, watching the fights again. So I'm stoked. Great cards. Definitely make sure that you check them out. We will be back Saturday evening, not Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry, guys, but we will be back Saturday evening doing event recaps for you. In the meantime, if you need anything, definitely check out theincorner.com for all things MMA. I am about to post the link for the weigh-ins, which start at 4 a.m. So if you want to get up early and check those out, you can do so at the site. And then again, all your other fight needs, check out the MMAcorner.com. For Justin Fuller, I'm Josh Davis. We'll see you Saturday night.